Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Inside. Today we're looking at the Mage Knight Rebellion starter set. This is based, of course, on... This is the original Mage Knight box set from WizKids. Kind of really got them going. Predates HeroClix. This is a Series 1 starter set. Stock number 100. It's the original game. Comes with a comic book and some figures. And you twist the base to determine damage and things like that. Very innovative for the time. It was recommended for ages 8 and up. And I believe this came out in, let me double check here, 2000, yeah. Out of Bloomington, Illinois, WizKids. Yeah, it was pretty popular at the time. And, was actually played quite a bit for a while. The second version of the game really kind of ruined it, in my opinion. I think that's what really killed off Mage Knight. They revised the rules and made a lot of people angry, at least around my area, and pretty much everybody quit and they played HeroClix for a while till they started banning figures from tournaments. Wasn't real balanced. But then there seemed to still have a pretty strong following with HeroClix, but I really wish they'd bring Mage Knight back, because I really liked this game. I thought it was fun. I think they should have adapted it more toward what they did with HeroClix with the maps. This uses a measuring tape. So let's open this up and see what's in here. It says, find a hero, build an army, create an empire. So let's see what we got in the core starter set for Mage Knight Rebellion. As I destroy this box. These are really jammed in there. Alright, now each figure has 3 levels. There's basically the same figure with 3 paint jobs. You've got your yellow, which is your basic, then blue, which is the middle, and red, which is the advanced. We'll get into that some other time, a little more detail, when I do a playthrough of it. But as far as this goes, here's a cheat sheet of the special abilities, has all the color codings that you need to know. And on the back, same thing, different symbols with the different color combinations. Here we've got our rule book, our comic book here, with the rules sheet stuck inside. So there's our cover of our comic book, and then there's some stickers so you know who owns what figure. Don't want anyone stealing your figures. And this is it for rules. It's not real big, it's 12 pages long, and it's just a little black and white thing with the rules. They're actually pretty simple rules. It's a fairly easy game. You just have to measure how far you're going and use your dice. So here's your dice and measuring tape. I found it a little easier to use a regular measuring tape for a lot of the movement. We broke a few of these back in the day. The dice were really cheap. But they look, because they had a very distinctive look to them. But they did function well, and they were kind of cool. And the measuring tape is just your average, sewing measuring tape that you would get from a basic sewing kit. It's numbered 1 through 18, and I believe it's in inches, but I don't remember for sure. So let's see what figures we got here. A few of them fell out of the plastic holders, but that'll happen. Alright, so this guy here is a Temple Bladesman. It's got his faction symbol, 2 stars, which tells you he's a blue, which means that he is a standard figure, as opposed to the yellow is weak, blue is standard, red is tough. And then the dial spins to denote how much damage he takes before he dies and what his abilities are on each one. If you could see that, there's like a red star there, that, or a red square, and that'll tell you what he has for that symbol. So each of these is kind of different. And basically they just repainted several of the sculpts so that they had red, yellow, or blue. Alright, so we got that Temple Bladesman, then we've got an Utm Guardsman. They're different factions. This guy is Atlantis Guild, and the Bladesman is Knights Immortal. And then we've got a weak Blade Golem from the Atlantis Guild. And these were pretty innovative at the time. Painted miniatures were fairly rare back then, and although these were fairly cheap looking, they're actually fairly sturdy figures for the most part, especially these bigger guys. But like this guy, you can't make out a lot of detail on his face. It was early in plastic molding for miniatures games, and they did it kind of on the cheap. But they got a lot better with the HeroClix stuff. Alright, now we've got a standard Screeching Terror. And this one is a weak Nightblade, which I think she's supposed to have a sword in her hand, which probably broke off at some point. Some of these did break pretty easily. The bigger guys were fine, but it's these that have the pointy weapons. They didn't do too well. There's a weak Leech Medic. And the medics were pretty cool. They were very handy to have. You wanted a few of those in your group. And one of my personal favorites was the Grave Robber. This is a weak one. He's from the Necropolis sect. The Leech Medic is from the Black Powder Rebels. They're a good group to have. They were a lot of fun to play too. The Grave Robber is pretty fun though. If you just have a couple of starters to play with, or a big mess of guys, you could kind of do it potpourri. But there's, as I recall, there's special abilities if you have all one faction. And they did release faction starters too. Little army units in a box. And those were kind of random. So that was kind of cool. Here's an Utm Guardsman again. This one's a yellow. So I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera, but yellow and blue. Next we have an Utm Guardsman Red. So we've got all 3 of the Utm Guardsmen here. And you can see that their stats are going to be different. You probably can't see that on the camera. But their stats are different for each guy. And it really does make a difference. This guy's a lot weaker, so he dies a lot faster. 1 or 2 hits usually. Let's double check here. Yeah, there'll be 3 skulls on there on his dial for dead. Then we click it over. Alright, this is his first one, so he could take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he's dead. And his numbers drop way down. So usually by the 3rd hit, they're pretty useless. So let's see what our last guy is here. This one's wrapped in paper. Oh yeah, this is a good one. This is the Bone Golem. These are pretty tough. This one's blue, so he's standard. But it's a pretty tough guy, and they looked pretty cool, I thought. So yeah, we got 2 of the Necropolis sect. Let's see, we've got 4 from Atlantis. Oh no, we have 3 from Necropolis, 4 from Atlantis. Oh, she's 1 too. Alright, so we got 4 of those 2 sects, and then 1 of the other 2. So, pretty strongly weighted in the favor of these 2, so I probably want to go with one of them to play. But you have a pretty good army to choose from. The points values on the dial next to their name. And you just select a number of points. I think it was 100 or 200 points for a quick game. And then each one moves different, so you have to measure it out and fight from there. Standard kind of minis game rules. Later on with the HeroClix, they used the maps, which I liked a lot better. Kind of made it easier for setup because you didn't have to put terrain down or anything. It was all kind of on the map. But yeah, you get quite a decent amount of stuff, even though the game isn't very popular now, and some of the minis are kind of hard to find, especially sealed starters like these. They go for a fair bit of money. They were fun to play, especially for younger people. You know, they couldn't afford the metal minis for like Warhammer 40,000 or anything like that. So, and you do get this fun little comic book, which, you know, I didn't really care about. But it is in color, and it is a comic book, and it advertises the storyline pretty well. And you do get a cheat sheet with the symbols on it. You do get the rule book. So you get quite a bit here. If you can find a copy of the rules cheap, the individual minis, probably a couple bucks a piece. The boosters seem to go sealed for around 15 bucks as of this filming in 2017. The starters tend to go, but you can get them for about $10, but most of the time you're going to see them for about 25 bucks. So if you want a sealed starter, it's going to cost you. But that's what's inside the Mage Knight Rebellion starter set. This was a pretty fun game. I think you can find the figures fairly cheap, but you know, individually. But if you want good figures, you're going to be paying for them. And if you want one of these sealed starters, it's probably going to set you back a bit. But as far as miniatures games go, I've played way worse ones with way heavier investment. And you do get everything you can use in one box if you don't care about factions, and just pick whatever you've got in the box and play with it. Get 2 of these, you could throw down to somebody for a lot less than most other miniatures games. So from a historical perspective, as far as gaming goes, this was a pretty cool game, and it did innovate quite a lot. The disc feature with the dials was a pretty cool way of keeping track of who's dead, who's got damage on them, and whatnot, and it really did make for an interesting game. But that's it for Mage Knight Rebellion starter set. Hopefully I'll have some boosters, and they did do a dungeon one, which was kind of using the same concept as HeroClix with maps. And they did a Pyramids one, which was an expansion off the dungeons, and then they had their own starters. I'm going to try and find some of those. I think I have some in storage somewhere, but I'll have to find them. And maybe we can open some of those and some boosters for this, and we'll see how it goes from there. And maybe we'll do a playthrough on how the game's actually played. In the meantime, that'll do it for this episode of What's Inside. As always, thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.